What the fuck? Where the fuck are our fucking Wojak videos, you fuck? The other day, while I was meditating in my bathtub, is the fancy version of the story. Actually, I was having a beer and listening to my Star Wars/Greek Orthodox hymns playlist. This thought came to me about the similarities and or not between the character and story of Anakin Skywalker and that of Jesus Christ. If you know anything about me, you know that I love Star Wars. Love is actually kind of a weak word. My first memory in the world is watching A New Hope with my dad. That's the level of deep fry brainwashing we're talking about. I'm kind of a turbo normie when it comes to internet Star Wars discourse. I hate the sequels, I think KOTOR 2 is art, and I wrote a whole little treatise on why the Death Star 2 wreckage and Rise of Skywalker is dumb bullshit ones. I'm also something of a hobby philosophy type guy, and being that I'm in my late 20s and grew up on the internet, I've had more than my fair share of religious debates as well, so I'm at least sort of up to speed on who this Jesus fellow was and what people have said he did or didn't do, etc. My main philosophical area of interest is Stoicism, and I realize that I'm probably coming off quite internet edgelord anti-SJW type at the moment, making a video about Star Wars, Stoicism, and Jesus, but hey, I'm gonna see this through and we can hash it out in the comments later. The point of the Stoicism in this equation is that there is some notable overlap between at least early Christianity and Stoicism, which as a philosophical school was founded some 300 years before the birth of Big JC. Jedi are also often called Stoic or described as Stoic warrior monks, etc., so I thought it'd be fun to dive into that a little deeper as well. So what's the big idea with the video then? The big idea is to first look at what Stoicism is and how it relates to the Jedi in-universe, and to look at some of how early Christianity was influenced by Stoicism and vice versa, to see if we can establish any solid links between the three, or perhaps between any two in the constellation. With that as our foundation, we will proceed to look at the stories of the two characters. For the sake of simplicity, I will probably be referring to Jesus as a character rather than a person for the duration, but I reserve the right to flip-flop as I see fit. Look at the stories of the two characters, see where they intersect, where they diverge, and what hides in between. I have no idea if I'm the first or the 100th person to draw parallels between Christianity, the Jedi, and Stoicism in this way. I'm not gonna check, and I'm just gonna assume that I've got the best takes possible on the subject. I will also be assuming that you, the person watching this, has a basic knowledge about the general story beats of Star Wars, or at least sort of familiar with some rudimentary philosophy and knows the basic beats of the Gospels. Okay, let's go. We begin then with Stoicism. To me, Stoicism can basically be summed up in these three words. But as those three words on their own have kind of a negative, mean bent, let's add two more. There you go. I'll start you off with Marcus Aurelius. Although not in any way the progenitor of Stoicism, is probably the most well-known proponent of it through his book Meditations, which is something I recommend everyone, but especially men aged 15 to 25 to read immediately if you have not already. Pause the video now, read it, come back here. A quote from the book, which I feel sums up the philosophy very nicely, is,
"You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength."
And that's why I summed it up as it being life itself, or the human condition, call it what you will. Stoicism is very concerned with control of the self and of your emotions. Ring any bells in some kind of sci-fi context to you?
Control, you must bring control.
So the link between the Jedi and Stoicism is, at a surface level, quite plain. So is there any link between the teachings or sayings of Jedi that relate to teachings or sayings of Stoicism? I am so glad you asked.
Difficult to see. Always emotion is the future.
Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens.
Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs.
True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
He must stand trial.
The best revenge is not to be like your enemy.
Rejoice for those around you who transform into the Force. Mourn them, do not. Miss them, do not.
Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been.
So there are some links. To be stoic or stoical is, according to the old Oxford English Dictionary, enduring pain and hardship without showing one's feelings or complaining.
You must unlearn what you have learned. Fear is the path to the dark side.
So I think it's very fair to agree with the popular description of the Jedi as stoic, if not strictly from a philosophical perspective, then in the more general way as a description of how they operate and appear outwardly. Stoicism is further concerned with moderation and the avoidance of extremes, be it pleasure or pain, wealth or poverty. Balance is critical. Much in the same vein as the Jedi avoiding emotion and attachment in general to not be pulled toward the dark side of the Force.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
No man is free who is not a master of himself.
Attachment is, of course, part of what ultimately pulls Anakin to the dark side, among other things which we will look at, but it's pertinent to mention how relevant this whole concept is to both disciplines, the made-up one and the less made-up one. And from this, we can move now swiftly on to the links between Christianity, particularly the earliest forms of it we have records and stories of, and Stoicism are numerous, which is why I'm trying so damn hard to tie these three distinct concepts together. Stoicism was very popular in ancient Rome, and seeing as Christianity grew to flourish in what we can broadly call the Greco-Roman world, the links are there, we're just gonna have to sort some stuff out first. First and foremost, let's look at some links between Stoicism and Christianity. One thing that is immediately apparent is virtue and how to live a virtuous life, which is placed front and center in both disciplines. Where Stoicism principally values things like wisdom, justice, and moderation, Christianity could be said to more principally value faith, hope, and charity. While it may not seem like these intersect immediately, Christianity is absolutely also concerned with wisdom. For example, James 3:13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. And Stoicism, for its part, absolutely concerned with charity. For example,
Whatever we give to the wretched, we lend to fortune.
So while they do differ, they share a goal in their pursuit of moral integrity. Both also powerfully point to internal rather than external freedom being the goal of their respective struggles. Christ spoke over and over of worldly goods not holding any importance.
It is easier for a wise man to gain access to heaven.
Can you stop doing that?
Or for example in Matthew, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven. For Stoics, this again takes a slightly different but principally very similar form. Their freedom lies in controlling your reactions to external events and aligning yourself with the natural order, which is called logos. Logos is very significant to both disciplines. Logos is Greek for word, but it can also mean principle or logic. It is the guiding force that steers the cosmos, i.e. the physical world. The meaning of logos being word is interesting in relation to Christianity in many ways. Foremost, if you ask me, and you did since you're still here, is the beginning of the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Paul draws a direct connection between God, Christ, and the Word here. So the link is very clear. Both Stoicism and Christianity venerate and honor the Word, either in the form of Jesus Christ or the alignment of oneself with the natural order through the lens of Stoicism. So where does the Force fit into all this? Try these on for size.
There is neither Jew nor Gentile,
neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Meditate often on the interconnectedness and mutual interdependence of all things in the universe. All things are mutually woven together.
These ideas of oneness and unity of all things or people are common to all three systems. It's common to most religious systems, to be fair, but the broader thematic connections strengthen this particular case. Of course, Christianity being so pervasive in the West means the Bible, almost by definition, influences most fiction created after it. I think at this point we've got enough of a base to stand on now to move on to... Take a mental trip with me. A prophesied chosen one is born in the desert, having been immaculately conceived, later tested by the forces of evil in the desert, betrayed by those closest to him, and set up to be ritually murdered in front of a ravenous crowd. Not actually dying, rather rising from death later on, and through his rebirth fulfilling the prophecy set out and enacting redemption. Is this a lazy, overdone parallel to draw? Maybe, but it's fun, isn't it? So shut up, nerd. The similarities between the stories are numerous, but so are of course the differences. Where evil tempted Jesus but did not succeed in seducing him, Anakin's fall to the darkness is probably one of the most well-known in modern fiction. Where Jesus rose after 3 days, Anakin only resurfaced due to outside influence, but this was because of his son, and the father-son image is of course highly resonant with Christianity to begin with. Next, we can look at Betrayal. Betrayal is front and center in the arcs of both characters. Where Jesus Christ is himself betrayed by Judas Iscariot, Anakin Skywalker himself betrays the Jedi Order and falls to the dark side. But he is also failed by everyone around him. From the moment he is brought from his life on Tatooine, he is never afforded the tools or guidance he sorely needs to make sense of the new world he's faced with. And eventually, the inaction of his new world causes the end of his old one. However, again, you could stretch this comparison to the whole of Anakin's suffering as Darth Vader, being a sort of parallel of Christ's suffering on the cross, for only after they had both suffered could they both die, and through death eventually rise and become something more than they were. Through his death, Christ redeemed the sins of all mankind. Through his death, Anakin Skywalker brought balance to the Force. The issue and the defining difference between the characters is choice. Where Anakin ultimately chooses what can be called the easy path, he is made to serve as a cautionary tale. However, Christ also does everything quote-unquote right and ends up crucified and killed anyway. So I guess really in the end there is no justice in the world and evil will always win. Good night! No, but seriously, there are of course cautionary elements to both tales. Jesus teaches us, for example, that even though you might resist your own temptation, the temptations of others might prevail over your chosen path. Anakin teaches us that the ends cannot always justify the means, and that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. While Jesus' life is rooted in divine perfection and ultimate triumph over sin and over death, Anakin's story is one of human frailty, fallibility, and eventual redemption. This is where their respective themes resonate with the universal pulses of sacrifice, struggle, and ultimately, hope. Why then did I preface this chapter with calling Anakin Antichrist? This is not to say that Anakin is somehow in opposition to Jesus, or that he's the devil. Star Wars has a guy for that already. As we've already covered, there are both convergences and divergences between the two stories. Let's look, for example, at how the two characters handle love. Love acts as a fulcrum in both of their respective stories and between the two characters themselves. Whereas Christ's love is self-giving, e.g. John 15:13,
"Greater love hath no man than this,
did a man lay down his life for his friends.
Or in Philippians 2:7,
rather, he made himself nothing, by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness.
Anakin's love is steeped in fear and strongly possessive, while sincere and genuine.
I promise you, I will even learn to stop people from dying.
This flies directly in the face of, for example, 1 John 4:18.
There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love.
Anakin's fall is not caused or driven by hatred or anger, although there certainly is a lot of that after the fall itself, but exactly the way Yoda warns him. The first domino struck is fear. Next, we can see another dark mirror between the two in the way they carry themselves when they are faced with their certain doom. When Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, already sure of his oncoming end,
"My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will."
And when Anakin, at least the way he feels at that moment, has passed the point of no return and has to ally himself with Darth Sidious.
I will do whatever you ask. Just help me save Padme's life.
Both characters face a moment where the future, no matter what, involves suffering. Power offers a way out, and the reaction and choice defines the respective identities. Whereas Jesus submits his will to the powers that be, aligning himself with the natural orders of things, as the Stoics might call it, and through this action, or inaction, fulfills prophecy and redeems all man's sin, Anakin lets his own fear-driven will tear down everything else he holds dear, and eventually, by extension, the whole of the galaxy. I mentioned the devil earlier as an allusion to Darth Sidious. However, before we dive any deeper into that, there's a parallel here that carries right on from Jesus in Gethsemane and Anakin submitting to Sidious, with Sidious instead mirroring Caiaphas, the high priest who is implied to be a key figure in the plot to neutralize Jesus. And if there's one thing that Sidious absolutely loves to do to the point of almost orgasmic pleasure, it's plotting. Take these two quotes from Caiaphas and Sidious.
"It is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish."
To cheat death is a power only one has achieved. But if we work together, I know we can discover the secret.
Whereas Caiaphas employs religious logic to justify a moral evil for the greater good, Sidious uses a form of utilitarian logic and the allure of esoteric knowledge to justify tyranny. Both can then be said to cloak a greater evil with a mask of rational necessity, while offering their own form of salvation through a seemingly moral compromise, all through exploiting a fear of loss, of control of the populace through Jesus' ministry, or the fear of the loss of a loved one. The Bible, predictably, does not look too kindly on this sort of cloak and dagger. Isaiah 5:20.
"Woe to those who call evil good and good evil."
Following on again from the previous scene and sticking with Isaiah, we are also given a description of Christ as a suffering servant, a point which is a very piercing through line for both characters.
"See, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem."
Jesus suffers to redeem others, a selfless suffering brought on by the iniquity of others and laid on his shoulders by prophecy. Anakin's suffering, however, is caused by no one other than himself, and he becomes, in a very literal sense, a suffering servant, prostrating himself to evil and entombed in a prison that cuts him off from the outside world. Not dead, but not exactly alive. This is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker forever. The last point I want to hit here, and there are some smaller ones that we can pick apart in the comments after you're done watching and joining the cult of the serpent. Skipping ahead from Anakin's fall to his redemption is the idea of redemption through the Son. The father-son motif is very strong in both stories. Jesus is the Son of God, at least, and Anakin is conceived by the Force. However, I'm going to disjoint from Jesus here and instead compare Anakin to Adam. Jesus is considered also to be a sort of second Adam. We can look at 1 Corinthians.
For as in Adam all die, so in Christ all will be made alive.
Jesus acts as the Redeemer himself, where Anakin falls and dooms the world for a time to pain and suffering. This directly mirrors the fall of Adam, and there's more. Both are created in a quote-unquote unnatural way, through which they are saddled with immense potential and responsibility. Both are tempted by evil and by desire, and through falling to it, bring ruin to the respective orders they were created to uphold. In this respect, Luke Skywalker functions more as a Christ analog than Anakin does, eventually bringing actual balance to the Force that not even 3 god-awful Disney movies could destroy in our hearts. To wrap this chapter up, Star Wars is not a retelling of the Gospel, but it does mirror it in select choices and decisions. Jesus Christ and Anakin Skywalker are faced with the same existential problem: love in the face of overwhelming suffering. Jesus acts as the Redeemer by surrendering to the natural order, where Anakin falls by striving to control everything around him. Again, Stoics would have much to say about both of these courses of action. While the characters share key points that link them, Anakin diverges at points that mean we can comfortably call him the anti-Jesus. Let's just stick with anti-Jesus, or I'll have the Westboro Baptist Church up my ass. We have returned, then, to the title of this adventure. With everything we've covered fresh in our minds, we can now look at some thematic links between all 3 concepts. The Romans were like super chill philosophy, the crybaby 6th grade reading level religion, and the religion explicitly made for children but mainly talked about by 30-something wannabe intellectuals who think they know what they're talking about. I should have gone to fucking college! Valium. We've already checked out logos and how the idea of oneness unites all 3 concepts. Let's dig down some more to the less blatantly obvious, why don't we? As a stark contrast to the oneness, all 3 are also concerned with the darker side of things. In Stoicism, this is known as pathe, destructive emotions like fear, rage, and uncontrolled desire. Contrary to the somewhat popular belief, Stoics do not seek to suppress or repress all emotion, rather to eliminate pathe from their lives. Epictetus, say something rad.
Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them.
Fear of loss, then, if we extend things to mean anything physical, is a core vice as far as Epictetus is concerned. This connects directly to Yoda's chain of fear, anger, hate, and suffering. Christianity echoes these broad strokes. Matthew 6:34.
Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof.
And Romans 8:6.
For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace.
Anakin fails to accept what is not in his control and attempts to dominate fate rather than assent to it. This would make Epictetus very unhappy.
Some things are up to us, and some things are not.
From Pathe, we can jackknife to the Stoic idea of apatheia and how it relates to the detachment of the Jedi and how Christianity breaks free from it. Stoic apatheia does not equal apathy. Again, this is in contrast to popular perception. Stoics seek not to free themselves of all emotion, but from being ruled by them. All things in moderation means emotions are not an ill, but an energy in us to be controlled.
Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
God, I love that quote. It's so fucking good. Can we stop for a second? Run that back?
Judge me by my size, do you? And where you should not. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
Okay, so where Stoics strive to temper emotions, the Jedi do seek seemingly to eliminate them altogether. Having emotional attachment at all is seen as dangerous, and personal bonds as a liability rather than an asset. A personal bond, in the end, being both the fall and the salvation of the Jedi. This is, at its core, a misapplication of Stoicism. Again, if Anakin had just been given some therapy and a nice condo for his mom, they wouldn't have gotten into this whole mess in the first place. Christianity, for its part, rejects apatheia, at least as the be-all and end-all. Jesus displays strong emotions, anger at times, sadness, joy, compassion. He is, in that way, absolutely a unifying symbol for all mankind. Jesus feels deeply, but still stays aligned with the logos that surrounds him. Stoicism seeks to discipline, the Jedi seek to erase, and Christ seeks to redeem through emotion. I think at this point I have rambled long enough. Some closing thoughts then. Jedi philosophy can charitably be described as Stoicism to an extreme and sans grace, where Stoicism preaches mastery of yourself, but not to the point of erasing that which makes us human. Jedi preach discipline with no chance of healing yourself of that which has wounded you, rather pushing everything down and away to escape quote-unquote evil thoughts. Christianity, for its part, stands for discipline in the face of overwhelming difficulty also, but says we can be transformed by love and by grace. Anakin fails where a Stoic would correct and Christ would redeem. The fear of loss consumes him from the inside because he cannot handle it while being told to push it away. He rejects fate rather than assenting to it, striving to control that which cannot be and being angered by his failure to do so. Jesus embodies a kind of ideal Stoic posture, i.e. obedience to logos, but in a way transcends Stoicism by loving fully and intensely rather than moderating, redeeming suffering rather than simply enduring, and through accepting death ultimately triumphs over it. And yeah, that's all I have for right now. This is literally an idea I had in the bathtub, drinking some wine, listening to like the Star Wars soundtrack, and I think some sort of reading of the Bible, probably Kings or something. This was like over a year ago. It was in November of 24. I started writing this, finished writing it actually, I think around the same time. But, well, you know me, I procrastinate to like a ridiculous degree. So just been putting it off and yeah, just got into gear, I guess. And wanted to put this out in case anyone else would, you know, find it interesting or whatever. I am, of course, like, disclaimer time after the video is over, that no one's going to hear. I am, of course, not a scholar. I have no formal education whatsoever in anything. I'm not very well read on sort of anything except maybe Star Wars, actually. I do like Stoicism. I've read Meditations and a lot of bits and pieces of other Seneca and Epictetus and, you know, all the big ones. And I have read the Bible a couple of times, but I'm, like I said, in no way a scholar, priest. I'm not even baptized. Well, I should say I am baptized. I didn't do my confirmation though, so there's that. For those of you interested in that kind of thing, generative AI was used to assist in the creation of this video. I used ChatGPT to pull Bible verses, for example, like compare them to Stoic verse, and to a lesser extent, because it's in my wheelhouse, but to a lesser extent to match things to Star Wars lines and concepts as well. LLMs are really good at that kind of thing, but I've done my best to like double check so that I wasn't fed any incorrect information when doing so. And of course I apologize for any eventual errors that still made it through. Beyond that, of course, the voices that are not mine are also AI, done by 11 Labs, so I guess shout out to them because they sound okay, I guess. I'm far too cheap and too impatient to hire someone to do voice work for me, so Shazam. Yeah, that's all I have for you today. I hope that these sort of inane ramblings about hobby, philosophy, and the most nerdy thing in existence and the coolest thing in existence has been fun for you, because it was pretty fun for me. So I'll see you in the comments. I'm happy to take any sort of fight or hash it out down there. Alright, see you.